Well, welcome back to Antidote to the Wire Fraud Epidemic. This is part 2 of the scam, and this segment goes into how the scam works. My name is Kim Lay, and I'm the founder and CEO of A2Q2, a special ops team from finance and accounting departments. And this segment, we are sharing with you what we've been seeing at our clients, and in some cases, actual emails that have been sent to our clients or companies that we know. The first segment I shared with you is what's happening, the impact of it, and the disclosures of some very public companies and how much they've lost. This segment is how does this scam work? Let's get right into it. The scammers are targeting finance and accounting departments with urgent requests to wire money for confidential deals or transactions. And so one of the spoofing methods, and this is more of an overarching theme, is that they're spoofing emails to employees allegedly from CEOs or CFOs, citing a confidential deal or asking employees to contact an outside attorney for further instructions. And in this case that I'm aware of, they actually emailed the controller, and it looks like an email from the CEO to the controller, and it says that you are the only person I'm trusting this information with. We have a confidential deal that's happening. Here's the name and contact of an outside attorney that we're using for this transaction. And the scammers have gotten so sophisticated socially that they will actually set up a website for a law firm so that when you go to this particular website or look at this particular law firm's domain name, it looks legitimate, and trying to get you to think, this is an M&A deal, which is why not a lot of people know about it, which is why we're working with an outside attorney. And that attorney then takes over and starts to give you instructions on what to do and eventually wire money to them, and is obviously not the right person. The second spoofing method is actually hacking directly into a client's or a company's senior executive's actual email account and sending the fraudulent wire instructions from there. I'll actually show you an example of a contact I know who's actually happened. And the other one is changing the header of the email request to disguise the true source, making it look like the email is from someone you know. And this usually happens because they don't have your exact domain name, but they're changing the email header so it looks like you. And the way that they're doing this is just so sophisticated, is more from a social engineering perspective, is that they are data mining publicly available information to mimic email addresses of high-ranking company executives. They are researching employees' responsibilities and titles so they know who to target. So if you look on any company, private or public, you usually see the management team. So you'll see a CEO, you'll see a CFO, and they're now targeting with all of the social media and open public information available. They're targeting that particular individuals. In the past, we've seen spam that hits everybody that says, send me money, I'm in Nigeria or something. In this case, it's very targeted, so that makes the methods very believable. Now, another version of this scam is to use malware to install into the system by a company clicking on a compromised website link that's emailed to them, and that's the phishing. And through this method, though this method is less common, they can actually get your email, get access to your email. So here's an example sent from an email from a CEO's hacked account. So this is a contact I know who is the CEO of a venture capital firm, and they managed to hack into his email account. And in my discussion with the CEO, he had said he made several mistakes. Well, one of his first mistakes, the CEO admitted, was that he used only a password to access his email account. It's the whole company's email is hosted on Google, and he just normally uses just an email password to get through. And in this case, the CEO also saved over 10,000 emails in his email folders from all his years, the past 10 years of emails and correspondences, he just saved it in various folders, and so they were accessible, and the hackers could then actually basically read his life as it's transpiring on email. And what they did is they took an email that looks, the example I'm showing you is a real email that the real CEO sent, but what they did in the fake email was they took a copy of this so that they would use the exact tone and the way that he would correspond. They figured out that Linda was his accountant, and they faked an email. The first one that he sent, that they faked, was sent out on a Sunday after this email. And what they did was they created a new folder in Gmail, in their Google email account, and also created a rule that auto-routed any responses that came back from Linda would go to this folder. And so in this process, avoid the real CEO seeing this back and forth conversation with his accountant. And what the other clever thing that they did was they went into his sent mailbox and actually deleted the actual email that they sent to Linda, so that in case he was going through his sent email and noticed it. So they were quite clever in how they were managing this. And so this is what you see. Hi, Linda, please initiate a wire transfer for an amount of $50,000 out from such account, the LP account, to, here's the other company's name, and giving exact dates on what needed to happen. And in this one, it referenced funding note extension number 3. And so again, this is kind of a transaction that looks like it might be legitimate to do this. Okay, and it happened that Linda, the accountant, received the request on Monday. So in this story that the CEO's telling me, the hackers sent it out on Sunday night. Linda, the accountant, received it on Monday and started the email conversation with some follow-up questions. How do you want this done? And certain things. And this whole time, the CEO was oblivious to this conversation. The reason Linda got suspicious was finally the scammers said something that just seemed unusual to her. The scammers said, I will be traveling this week. Please approve this wire in my place. And Linda, as the accountant, was very suspicious because the normal mode of operation is that the office manager would be the one approving any wires if the CEO was traveling. And so Linda contacted the office manager, and up to that point, the CEO still did not know that his email account had been hacked, had not seen any of this stuff. And so when the accountant actually showed it to him, he said it looked exactly the way he would write it, his signature, everything was there, and discovered then that his email account had been hacked. So once the CEO realized that, of course, he reset his password, and he also, through Google hosting, requested to see the computers that had access to his email account or that had recently been attached to it. And to his knowledge, he only used 2. One was his laptop, and 2 was his phone. And I guess the other one is an iPad. But when he looked at the list of computers, he saw a dozen of them. And there was a computer from Redwood City, one from LA, there were others inside the US, and others outside of the US, including Algeria, of all places. So he knew that his account had been accessed by multiple people who were probably scanning and going through this. So this is how insidious this scam can be. This next email that I'm going to show you is from a spoofed one, so it's not the real account. It was sent from someone to, it was sent allegedly from the CEO to the CFO, and there are a couple of mistakes here that the scammers messed up on, which was why the company was able to catch it, is that it said, good morning, how are you doing this morning? Kindly confirm back to me that you're in the office. I want to initiate a wire transfer of $62,700 this morning. Confirm back to me so I can provide you the bank instructions of the beneficiary as soon as possible. Kindly advice. And so the word kindly used in 2 places, including the grammatically incorrect kindly advice, was what tipped off the CFO. So this was a smaller organization. And the CFO read it and said, you know what, that just does not sound like my CEO. He normally in speech or normally in emails does not use kindly, and just this phrasing is very clumsy. And that prompted a conversation where the CFO popped his head in and talked to the CEO, and of course the CEO's oblivious because it wasn't him. They actually faked it. So this is going then the next step of the spoof, right? They're spoofing an email address by buying up internet domain names that when your eye looks over it, or any employee or a vendor who's not familiar with it, looks like it's from the company. And here is an example literally that you can see, example spelled with 2 N's versus example with 1 M. And when you're in a hurry, our eyes want to see what we want to see. So we think that, oh, it's the legitimate domain name. So that's how one way they're doing it. And of course, they're spoofing the email, asking for an emergency wire for a transaction of some sort. That's what we did see from the faked email. And another variation of this is spoofing the email to accounts payable, alleging to be a vendor, asking to change the vendor's address and payment information in the system. And so this one is very clever because now the vendor already exists in your system. And oftentimes there are many common vendors that many companies use, let's say an IBM, a Dell, Apple computers, internet or things like that. It's very typical that if you just guessed that they might use this vendor and maybe request the address and payment information to be changed, that you could get the bank's the money to be routed to your bank. And finally, opening up the sham bank accounts to receive the funds. And so as you can see, they're getting quite clever on how they're doing this. So in the next segment, I'll share more with you. But again, my name is Kim Lay, and my contact is here in case you need to or would like to contact me. Welcome all comments and conversation. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next segment.